to one of the stores, an event will fire, and say we did want to log or we wanted to version the operation, then the store doesn't care about that. It doesn't even know it's being logged or versioned. That's the responsibility of something which is listening to the event. Below that, we have a domain object store, which is an implementation of the iDomain object store, which creates a template really for creating your own stores. So it has a few abstract methods which you must override in order to do the CRUD operations for your object type. It handles the firing of these events for you, so you don't need to remember to fire the events. And it's initialized with the domain object info store, which is a similar concept, just for storing the base domain object data. And that's really that picture.
We're missing a store off there, mate. Are we missing the SQL user store?
We're not. I just removed SQL from the names because the fact that we're typing SQL every time when almost everything that we're going to do for the next several months is going to be a SQL there.
Okay.
I thought it read better.
Okay, but to try and explain it, these stores, the idea, the motivation behind them is that they deal with the storage. So we did have like a SQL user store, and that's what we was using in all our stuff. But it was completely interchangeable with a text user store, which we had for a while as an example, which just wrote stuff to the file system and read it off the file system. The user object just didn't care because it was given a store. You load stuff from the store, so it's that important separation of the data access as well, which we don't actually need, but it's a really good kind of focuser to make sure you're not mixing up the things. So it's not needed with content distribution, although a side effect is we may use it for content distribution, so we have a content distribution store and it could get stuff.
You've got a file system store or a zip store, and it
Exactly.
archives your entire site.
But the point is you just implement your own, it's down, when you write the user object you also write your user store, and if you're only worried about the SQL side of it, then you just write your user store is talking to the database, but it didn't have to, it could talk to whatever it wants. That's kind of how it works.
The only downside really, because we're using actual object inheritance there, if you were to introduce a new base sort of store, you would have to write one for every object type. So
okay,
that's a slight
can't.
downside. That's just because we're using inheritance at that point, which I think was a means to an end at this point.
It's still separate,
it is separate enough. Earlier, further up, it could still be substituted quite nicely. So that's that, anyway, isn't it? That's that piece of paper.
So, are we going to dip into the code then?
Yes.
So, well, I think the best thing to share will be to run your little program, which will create a user, update a user, delete a user, and then we'll look at how it actually works. We'll actually have a quick skim through how it's actually working in the code-wise, but that's also going to do a demonstration of creating a new object, because right now it's a little bit overwhelming and it looks like it's incredibly complicated to do the simplest things, but it's not, because hopefully all this work is done for you, and that's what we're trying to achieve, is take as much overhead out on development as we can. So you want to create a new thing in Easy Site, it should be easy, all the base behaviour should just happen for you. That's the idea.